Hello, thank you for watching. One of my subscribers asked me to do a video on my settings and a video on aiming. So I'll try to put it all together in one. Part one will be on my settings and part two will be on aiming. What I want to do is explain the learning curve here. When I first started out, in War Thunder, I only did AB. I had a brain fart. Sorry. I got allergies. My eyes are burning. My nose is stuffed up. So if I sound like crap and I lose my train of thought, it's because with allergies, my brain kind of deserts me every once in a while. So please have patience with me. I didn't think I should keep putting this video off as they asked a while ago. So here we go. All right. Full real controls. As it says there, it says you can control the flaps, trim, propeller pitch, etc. The virtual instructor does not function in this mode. Recommended for experienced players. You can have a little more leeway with realistic. In realistic controls, you can use keyboard and mouse, whereas in full real controls, it's recommended you only use a joystick. This is for AB and RB, but for simulator, it's best to use full real controls. Now then, I have it set at control mode none, where in this it's mouse aim, mouse joystick, relative control, or view. I have it set up for none of those. Virtual instructor, shut off. Auto trim, shut off. Toggle control mode, shut off. Toggle SAS mode, button 7. Now, what this is, SAS, is it helps you control the plane like in level flight or, basically level flight. You have more control over planes in tier basically tier 7, tier 8, the higher upper tier planes. It really doesn't work on lower tier like 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, use the mouse wheel. You can use it for your throttle access, your zoom access, or view in battle. I tried view in battle, and I've tried every one of these, and I don't like it, so I have it set at none. Mouse wheel multiplier, you're not really using it, so I just left it at what it's set at. Okay, throttle access. I have on my joystick, it's axis 4. It's where it's set at. Now, to clarify, I have a Logitech 350 Pro Extreme. Yeah, Extreme 3D Pro. I also have a Thrustmaster HOTAS with a T16000M joystick. What I discovered, unfortunately, is that War Thunder does not provide a profile for it. It's just an absolute pain in the ass. So I'll have a brand spanking new 2-year-old Thrustmaster that's sitting under my bed collecting dust, and I went back to the Logitech 3D Pro. So on my Logitech Extreme 3D Pro, I use axis 4. Roll axis on the joystick is 2. Axis 1. Axis 3 for yaw, pitch. Now, here's the thing that you're going to have problems with. Nonlinearity. IL-2 has, like over here, they would have a box that shows you the S curve. You don't have a box here. Now, if you're just starting out in sim, this is going to be a real issue for you. You're going to find yourself bobbing up and down. You're all over the place, and it's really hard to control the plane. So when I was first starting out in sim 3 years ago, I had it up to 3. Uh, so I had better control of the plane. As you get better, you work your way down, and I'm at 1.6 now. And I've been playing for 3 years. There are people who have been playing the same length of time as me who were at 1, but everybody has a different learning curve. I have the multiplier set at 1, and at one time I had it down to 0.98, 0.96, so that it didn't respond 1 to 1. It was a little off, and that helped with my flying too. Correction, I have 0. Now, for your pitch access, I have it at 1.6 with a dead zone of 0.02. And again, the multiplier at 1. And again, I had this at 3 when I was first starting out. And gradually it went down to 2.3, 1.8. Now I'm at 1.6. I could probably safely put it at 1, the nonlinearity. But why, if it's working fine for me? Multiplier is at 1 to 1. No correction. And there's maximum value W and S. That's kind of irrelevant because I'm using joystick axis 1. And that's pulling the joystick backward or pushing it forward. That controls my pitch. Yaw axis. Now this, believe it or not, was actually an issue for me. Is that too much yaw or not enough yaw? I could never get it right. So the way I corrected that was putting my dead zone to 0.08. But my nonlinearity is still at 1.6. So all it took was a little more play in the joystick, twisting it left or right, to correct that issue for me. So everything else remains the same. As I said, excuse me, allergy season. And you don't have relative control on here. I have tried it with relative control, but it really is a pain in the butt. So just don't put on relative control at all. Now, this is left at default right here, which is 0.2. And my axis, well, it's the throttle's on my joystick. But this can be an issue because if you don't do it right and you think you're throttling up and you actually throttle back, so then you have to invert it. Where it says here's invert axis, that's because with my Logitech, if I do it forward for going faster and down for less throttle, it does it the opposite. So I had to invert the axis. What else is there? Well, thrust vector, those are the keys I use. Force feed multiplier, I don't have one of those joysticks, so it's just set there. Ignite the boosters, I have alternate B. Wing sweep, that's for your higher jets. And if you're in this just joining sim, probably this won't even affect you because you won't be into jets yet. Toggle flaps F, flaps down, flaps up, key C, X, F. Toggle air brake H. Thrust reversal, haven't even used it yet, and it's set at key number 2. All right, so weaponry, small caliber guns. Now I'm always changing these because all the, you get 2 or 3 different calibers of guns, and you maybe just want to shoot off your smaller calibers and save the cannons for later, or additional guns like gun pods that you put on. So I did have this one, fire machine guns and cannons together, but it just seemed a little redundant, so I just took that assignment off. Primary weapons, left shift S, but this is all setting up that you can find your own keys for. It really is personal, subjective. So there's no point in me going through the keys, what keys I'm using. The most important things that you have to concentrate on that will cause you to fly either radically and crazy are these right here: your roll axis, your pitch axis, and your yaw axis. Concentrate on those. Now, I said I was going to do a little more and tell you that I started out in AB about 8 years ago, and then I switched to RB with a little hesitance because I didn't have the confidence. I wasn't sure I could do it. So I reluctantly started playing RB, mastered it. And like you, if you ask me to do this video, it's because you're at that same point too, where you go, well, is that all there is? I want to try sim. Now, simulator is definitely, well, it definitely has a learning curve to it. I'm not going to lie to you. You're not going to get into it in like AB or RB and just bam, you've got it. It took me a year of playing around with all of these keys here, all these settings, to finally be able to master the plane. Now, I'm in my 3rd year of sim. So the first year was just all over the place. So because I totally lacked the confidence in flying fighters, I flew almost all bombers and attack planes because I just didn't have the confidence to fly a fighter. So what I did next is one of my friends was always bugging me about getting track IR. Well, I always used the top hat on the top of my joystick because in EL2 you can set your top hat to operate as good as your track IR. You can see everything with it, just the way it's set up. So I kept arguing and saying, "Oh, I don't need track IR. I'll keep using my top hat." Well, it did get to a point where, yeah, I was losing sight of planes and getting shot down and that. And so I finally went and purchased a track IR. Now, you'll see in my videos where I actually use the video camera showing me playing, is that I use the cap mount, the one that has the 3 reflectors that sit on the beak of your baseball cap. That's what I use. And the reason for that is because the one that sits on your headphones on the side is really, really expensive, and it's old oxidized plastic. And what finally was the determination for me not to buy it is when I read a review of this guy in DCS who has like 20 people on his team. And he went out and bought every one of these very expensive lights that sit on the side of your headphones, and they all broke, all 20 of them. So he was out like thousands of dollars, totally useless. So I still get a little crap from my friends for using the hat mount, but I don't have to worry about it breaking, and I've had it for a while now, about 2 years, and it works just fine for me. But that's not the issue. The issue is I just finally gotten used to flying simulator, and I put on the eye track, and you got to go track IR, and you got to go through all these settings. I should have brought track IR up. I didn't. And it won't work if you bring it up after you've started the game. You got to bring track IR up before you start the game, and then start the game. Anyway, you have all these settings. I mean, it is mind-boggling. At least it was for me. Now, the problem with track IR is I couldn't get the settings right. I was constantly all over. And when I was playing with it, I'd actually become disorientated. Didn't know if I was flying upside down, didn't know if I was climbing, didn't know if I was diving, blah, blah, blah. It was just a pain in the ass. So that took me another year. So there's 2 years invested in simulator. First, getting used to being in simulator the first year. The second year was getting used to track IR. And now I'm in the third year and I'm kicking ass. So it's going to take you, unless you're gifted in some way, you're a prodigy, it's going to take you at least 2 years to master simulator. Now you can say, oh, I'm fed up and I'm leaving and I'm going back to playing arcade or realistic. Well, that's your choice, but you're not going to get anywhere if you do that. You got to stick with it. So in my third year, I'm kicking butt. I'm getting like 11 kills a game. I'm fully confident in flying a fighter. I'm rarely in a bomber anymore. I'm usually shooting them down. And those of you who watch my videos, you see I spend a lot of time in fighters now, and I'm not afraid to go after another plane. I can control it. So get used to the fact that for the average person, unless you're a prodigy, it's going to take you at least 2 years to get to confident and experienced enough to fly effectively in simulator. And it all has to do with this. You'll be constantly adjusting these here. And you'll be constantly adjusting your nonlinearity to fit. One day you'll be at 3, next day you'll be at 2.5, and then you'll try it down to 1, and your multiplier 2, you'll be at 1, and then you'll be down to 0.96 and stuff like that. So it's going to take you a while. Just hang in there, and well, you'll get it. If I can do it, you can get it. But it takes a while. The learning curve. I know I'm being redundant, but I can't stress that enough. But as far as setting up the keys for your buttons, that is subjective. It depends on the keyboard type you have. It depends on the HOTAS you have, the joystick you have, where you want to place them, and which buttons you want to choose. So really, there isn't much point in me showing you that. I do have the gunner view sensitivity at 100%. Maximum zoom 100%, aim control speed 50% because I don't want him to turn too fast. But all my rear gunners, as you know from if you've watched my video on setting up rear gunners and tactics, which I use an ME 410 for, a Messerschmitt 410. All my gunners, rear gunners, that's a top priority for me, is that my gunners are set at 75 minimum in all areas, but prefer expert or ace. And I only have a few experts left. Most of them are all aces now. And so this is all... Well, I don't even know what this crap is. I guess I better watch some videos to find out what that's set up for. And there's your gamepad setup for those who are playing in gamepads. Trimming, that's all subjective to. Engine controls is all subjective to. So I hope this was some help. And I'm going to be redundant again. These are the areas you're going to need to work on. And this is what takes the longest to learn how to fly sim. Right here. Sensitivity. Get your sensitivity right. What axis you choose is up to you. But the sensitivity will change until you have mastered it. So that's the end of part 1. Thank you for watching, and we'll go to part 2 right now, aiming. Okay, part 2, aiming. I'm in the practice range, and I don't see any enemy planes to shoot at. I don't know why they put me off carriers. instead of off of a land base, but they did in the middle of the Pacific. Anyway, the point is, here's how I set my convergence up. If you're in a turn plane, like this is a turning plane, it's Japanese tier 3. Yeah. And it has a 15-second turn time to do a 360 turn. Well, if you're in a turning plane, a plane that does turns like that, I set my convergence at 300 meters. Just adjusting my track IR. Because, here, see if I can get it in a position where you can see where it converges. Okay, see where they cross? See, 300 meters in front. So, in a turning plane, you're able to stay right on a guy's ass. And if you got your convergence set to like 500, 600 meters, and you're that close to him, your shots are going to miss him. You want to be within your convergence. Now, I was hoping on having planes here to show you. Okay, see the outside circle of my... Here. See the outside circle. Well, not the outside one. See the solid circle, the bigger one. Not the smaller one right in the middle. That is when you have wingtip to wingtip inside that solid circle, you're exactly 300 meters away from your opponent. If you're on the outside, like around the dotted line, you might be 600 meters. So to help you aim is get the wingtips tip to tip on the plane you're going after, just inside the solid white circle, the bigger one, not the little one in the middle. And then you'll be within your convergence range. And your shots should land right in the middle of the plane. They should converge right on the plane. Otherwise, if you're like 400, 500, 600 meters, you're going to have to do some yaw control so that one gun on the left wing or one gun on the right wing hits the target. Otherwise, your shots are going to go right by them and they're going to converge 200, 300 meters in front of them, and you're going to miss the plane completely. I see that all the time. People have like 400, 500, 600 convergence, and they're right on the guy's ass, and they can't understand why they're not not hitting him at all. Well, it's because your shots are going right by him. They're not at the convergence point. You're shooting over him. You're missing his fuselage completely. If you're lucky, you might hit a wingtip, but that's about it. So on these planes, turning planes, keep your convergence about 300 meters and stay within that circle, or use that circle as your guide to know when you're in that 300 meter range. Okay. Okay, this is the Spitfire LF Mark 9. Its turn rate is 14.8 seconds to do a 360 degree turn. So it's definitely a low level fighter, low altitude fighter. So its convergence is set at 300 meters for me. Now, because it's a land-based plane, I actually get to shoot at land-based planes. Now then, let's see if we can see the convergence. Spitfires are still a little hard to manage. Okay, see that? Bombers. Got a very wide wingspan. See where my shots are converging? At 300 meters. See, they're converging right at the plane, right? See? They're not shooting over him or across him. They're shooting right at him. Now I'll slow down and let him get a little further ahead. Now you see they start spreading out the further he gets away from them. See, I hit his wing there, not more central on the plane. So your convergence is everything when in a turning plane. See, now I'm within. I suppose the Spitfire, with its flight characteristics, wasn't the best plane to show aiming with, was it? I'm bobbing all over the place. Okay, this is the P-51 D-30. Notorious boom and zoomer. So, what you're going to do is you're going to be diving on other planes. You're not going to be turn fighting with them. This is the worst plane you can be turn fighting a Japanese or a British Spitfire with. Because once you drop down below a certain speed, like 400 kilometers an hour, you're a sitting duck. And in these planes, people who are flying P-51s, my favorite thing to do is to suck them down to the ground, drag them down to the ground, and force them into a turn fight. Because with every turn and every maneuver I make, they lose speed. That's my targets. So I'm above them, and I'm going to be zooming in on them, booming in on them. So you're at a higher altitude. My convergence is set at 400 meters. Now I'm not a boomer and zoomer, so I might not be very good at this. I love turn fighting planes. Usually all I fly is planes that are turn fighters, not boom and zoomers. Now you zoom away, whether you killed them or not. Use your speed to get out of there. So you climb above them again. And you boom down on them again. Now, as you saw there, one of the problems is on certain guns, the recoil will either push your plane up or it'll push you down. So you got to adjust for that. Shoot below the plane or shoot above the plane, depending on what the recoil is. So I started shooting above the plane and it pushed me even higher, the recoil. So that means I got to shoot below the plane, and the recoil will bring my nose up. Show you how to aim on ground targets. One thing, that bobbing didn't help. So one's too low, the other's too high. So we'll leave it at 3. Okay, there's the ground target. Okay, this is a trick I was taught. For ground targets, you start shooting early and walk your nose up on ground targets. I seem to be picking the wrong planes. They're really unstable. Try that again. See how I walk my guns up? Killed a crew member there. See, you walk your guns up. That's how you go after ground targets. Okay, this is the F-86 F5. Now, what's different about this is that when you get into jets, all the guns are on the nose. So you have 3 on that side, 3 cannons, 3 on this side. And they're usually, on some planes, they're 20 millimeter. On almost all American planes, they're 50 cal or 12.7 millimeter. So you don't have really a convergence issue because they're all right there. I'm sorry, told you, allergies. So you don't really have to worry about convergence. You can set your cannons at 500 meters, 600 meters, 600 meters. But I'm still in a relatively light caliber gun. And I see a lot of people who switch different planes from like a 50 cal to a 20 millimeter, a 30 millimeter. They have problems when they come back to the 50 millimeter, the 12.7, 50 cal, 12.7. I'll get it right yet. Because they tend to over adjust and wonder why they keep missing their targets. You don't need that much of a lead with 50 cals. You can aim almost directly at the target and hit it. So this is at 500 meters. Now, any plane, even the last one I had, it has a gyroscope sight on it, which is that thing that moves up and down with the plane. It's not the dot that's in the middle that doesn't move. It's the dot in the gyroscope that you use to aim with. Okay? Okay, I'll use the solid dot. Well, it's right in line with the... Okay, this is 50 cals. See how straight they are? Whoops, that was a mistake. Should have hit the air brake. Don't hit the flaps. Hit the air brake. I always joke and say, well, at least I'm lighter without flaps. I weigh less. But you see, it was the dot that moves on the gyro sight that you aim with, not the solid dot. And the purpose of the gyro sight is for deflection shooting. There was actually a Canadian pilot in World War II stationed in Malta, that area, in the Mediterranean, who started the deflection shooting. And at first they wouldn't believe him that he shot down a plane because it didn't show up on his camera, but that's because he was deflection shooting. He was shooting ahead of the plane. And so it didn't show up on the gun camera. One of the problems with having a fast plane going after a slow plane, overshooting. Anyway, that's 50 cals. You see how straight they shoot? There's very little drop in them because they're a light shell. They're light. They're heavier than a rifle shot, but they're lighter than a cannon. Like a 20 millimeter, 30 millimeter, 50 millimeter, 75 millimeter. Okay, this is the German G91 Fiat. It has 30 millimeter cannons on it. Here, let me close that cockpit. Ah, the hell with it. I forgot where the cockpit thing is. Okay. Now I extended the Convergence to 600 meters only because it's a heavier shell, so it'll carry further. But the thing is, you have to remember is that when you get up into like 30 millimeter the bullet starts dropping almost immediately when it leaves the plane. It's not like the 50 caliber. Well, it'll probably go 500 meters before it starts to drop. The heavier the shell, the faster it will drop. And here you'll see at 600 meters, how soon it drops. Now, you also got to adjust for recoil, and you got to adjust for the drop. See, if I even have a hope in hell of reaching him, see how quickly what's it called? The spread. How quickly the bullets spread out, like shotgun. That's a characteristic too of the higher calibers. You don't have a nice tight cluster like you did with the 50 millimeters. Where'd he go? I got talking there and lost him. There he is. Air brake. There, I lost the bugger. There he is. So even with a convergence of 600 meters to adjust for the drop, I still pretty much have to be right on his 6 to have any effect, because now I have to do a spread as well. It's not a nice tight cluster. Boy, this is a nice stable platform, isn't it? Just my track IR. I'm climbing uphill, but I'm still gaining speed and catching up on him, so I need to throttle back a bit. Okay. So going by my gun sight, I'm at least 600 meters away from. See the spread? Still too far away at 600 meters. So I have to shoot a little above him because of the drop. He's pretty much within my 600 meter range now. Actual convergence. Don't shoot people in parachute, even if it is a game. Nobody likes that, because in real life, not even the Germans would tolerate it. One German commander told his pilots, if I catch you shooting a person in a parachute, shooting at him, I'll shoot you down myself. So don't even do it in the game. Nobody likes it. It shows bad sportsmanship. Shows you're a total dickhead. Hey, this is the Yak 9K. It has a 45 millimeter cannon right in the propeller, in the motor mount. So I wanted to show you because I thought this would be a good one. It's a 45 millimeters, so it's going to be pretty close to the 50 millimeter, not 50 cal, 50 millimeter, big heavy shell. To demonstrate the drop off. See how it drops off? You gotta aim high. Look at the boy, getting this thing to fly right. Maybe I should have worked on trimming this before demonstrating. I'm going to be all over the place. See how it dropped off? And that's how quickly a 45 mil drops off. So you got to aim. I'm just going to clear all this back to zero. Deal with it. You got to aim above your target. Now we know why I don't fly this plane very often. Holy cow. But you see, the lighter calibers don't drop off that quick. Boy, really useless shells on these planes. I wonder hardly anybody flies Russia anymore. Had the shit nerfed out of them. Finally. You're really going to have... Well, I was going to say a lot of trouble, but I used to be pretty good with the heavy calibers. 50 mils, 70 mils, 35 mils, 45 mils. 37 was my favorite. Like in Yak 9T or Yak 9-3. I used to be pretty good with this plane 2 years ago. The flight model sucks in it now. Anyway, I was showing you the problems you're going to have depending on the different calibers, different weights of the shot. From the rifle shot to the 50 cal or 12.7 millimeter, the 23 millimeter, the 45 millimeter, and how the drop is affected by the weight, and how to set up the convergence. I might as well finish this video out with this plane. Boy, now the nose wants to climb. Okay. The Yak K9 or 9K was a total disaster, demonstrating at 45. So here's a Kai 108 with a 37 millimeter in it, set at 400 meters convergence. Boy, I caught up to them real quick, didn't I? Now, they have a faster rate of fire, this gun on the Kai 108, than the Yak 9K. See, it doesn't. Well, I'm pretty close too. But everybody complains about the 37 mil, and I love it. I love this caliber. I changed to universal here because it's got a high explosive shell in it, plus an armor piercing. But you see, I think the 37 mil is one of my favorite size shell. Whoa! You can get killed if you run into the parachute. That's just your machine guns. But they're in the nose too. Maybe the Japanese wasn't such a, but watch, see it drop off? See the drop? So you got to take into account. I'm impressed with these guns. Very fast shooting. They stay tight, not a big spread. No wonder I love flying Japan. Anyway, I hope this helped you with your aiming. I picked the wrong plane a couple times to demonstrate it. Flight control, or the flying of the plane was a little difficult. Had a hard time getting under control, but hopefully you still got the idea of how those different weights work at different convergences. The importance of your convergence, especially on prop planes. On jets, it's not really an issue because they're all in the nose. But for those with cannons on the wings, the machine guns on the wings, convergence is everything. Whether you're flying a turn fighter or a boom and zoomer. So you got to change your convergence for weight of the shot, the shell. You got to change convergence by position of the guns. You got to change convergence for whether it's a turn fighter or a boom and zoomer. So I hope this video helps you, and hopefully I get lots of new subscribers. Thank you very much. Have a good day. God bless.